What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of AI Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Today we're going to go through the different factors of graphics cards for deep learning workstation builds. We're going to go through exactly what can be compromised on for your particular use cases. Obviously, when discussing the best graphics card, price is going to play a huge role with this. So the best graphics cards are going to be the most expensive, but this video is really aimed at sort of an average person looking to get into machine learning. What graphics card should you get? Let's start off with exactly why graphics cards are important for deep learning. Essentially, the way in which they are built makes them really good candidates to do a lot of really efficient matrix operations, which end up being a huge piece of deep learning. They end up being a lot more ideal for this particular use case over something like the CPU because they can transfer large amounts of information from memory at a particular time. That can be compared to a CPU, which can transfer things from memory really quickly, but can't transfer as much. So they end up being able to transfer larger batches of data. They might do this more slowly, but they're able to do it in a massive parallelization as well. So instead of having 4, 6, or 8 parallel processes, graphics cards are able to have hundreds or thousands of parallel processes, each transferring large batches of data from memory. The number of parallel processors as they pertain to GPUs are referred to, at least in the NVIDIA ecosystem, as CUDA cores. NVIDIA chips are going to have several thousand of these CUDA cores on one graphics card. Compare that to between 4 and 12 processors for a certain CPU. So to recap, graphics cards have vastly more cores. They're a lot slower for a particular cycle, but they have a much larger bandwidth. So the information that can be carried with each process is going to be higher than a CPU. So this is why graphics cards end up being so much more useful for transferring those batches for deep learning. Lots of modern graphics cards also have a huge amount of dedicated RAM as well. A lot of graphics cards will have gigabytes of dedicated RAM. The cards I'm going to recommend in this video, a lot of them will have 10 gigabytes or more of dedicated RAM, and that's going to be sufficient for a lot of model training. If you don't specifically know that you're going to need more than 10 gigabytes of RAM for your particular application, then I would say that it's sufficient for you. The people who train these humongous models typically will be well aware of their memory restrictions on their GPU. The main considerations that I would encourage you to consider are pretty much going to be the dedicated VRAM and the CUDA cores that are included on the chip. Taking a look at both of these factors, the best cards available for the price are unfortunately probably going to be the most in demand, since everyone's going to be looking to buy them. For the sake of coming up with the best machine learning graphics card for 2021, I'm going to stick with the NVIDIA 3000 series cards. I don't think anyone's going to be that shocked with this recommendation. These are outstanding graphics cards, and they are probably the best bang for the buck that you can get. Unfortunately, as you definitely know, they are going through a graphics card shortage, so the prices have been highly elevated. My recommendation for someone who has trained neural networks before and knows that they really want to get heavily involved in this space, I'd recommend the NVIDIA 3070 chip. This has 8 gigabytes of dedicated memory and 5,888 CUDA cores. Even though this is the dedicated sort of chip for the 3000 series, don't let that fool you. This card is an absolute monster. It's going to really crush any sort of entry-level to moderate deep learning task that you throw at it. The 3090 is much beefier than the 3070, but it's going to end up breaking the bank quite a bit. It does end up being a lot more cost-effective than buying 2 separate 3070s, though. So with the 3090, you get 24 gigabytes of RAM, so 3 times the amount of RAM as the 3070, which has 8 gigabytes, and you get 10,496 CUDA cores. The prices that I was seeing for the 3090 ended up being roughly double that of the 3070, but you get 3 times the RAM. So I would say if you're able to go the extra mile and get the 3090, and you know you want to do some very intense machine learning down the road, maybe take the leap and go for the 3090. You're going to be set on graphics cards. You're going to be future-proofed for many, many years to come. This card is an absolute monster. I would like to add, though, that these graphics cards are all pretty serious business. So just to give you an idea, I have an old GTX 1070 in one of my workstations. I'm able to do a lot with this card, and that card is about 7 years old now, I would say. So I'm able to participate in Kaggle competitions and train on medium-sized data. Neural networks can train. They're going to take longer, and they're slower than the same models on these newer cards. They have less CUDA cores. However, it's not like it's the end of the world if you can't get one of these top cards. It's just going to make your life a little bit easier. It's going to make models train a little bit faster. I'm saying all this because if you're just getting your feet wet in machine learning, you might not need to go as intense as some of these graphics cards. If you're not sure if you're going to be doing this for the next several years, maybe don't shell out the thousands of dollars required. Get your feet wet with something like Google Colab. Make sure you really like machine learning and that you're going to be fascinated with it for the long term. Maybe a couple months, start learning the basics with like a cloud system before investing heavily in your own workstation build. I will mention that I'm putting all the links to these graphics cards in the description box of this video, along with descriptions of who might be interested in the different cards and setups. Unfortunately, right now, it is probably the hardest time in recent history to buy a graphics card. Everyone wants to buy these cards, whether it be for gaming, machine learning, mining cryptocurrency. There's a huge variety of use cases for these cards, so expect to pay a lot of money for them, unfortunately. I have been seeing some cards trickle in on Amazon and Best Buy. Like I mentioned, they are pricier, but that's better than it was a few months ago where there was literally none for sale. All right, so that's about all I have for you today. I covered some of the use cases for why graphics cards are good for deep learning, what advantages you're actually getting over CPUs for that particular use case, and also some recommendations on what card you should get if you're just starting out versus maybe a more serious build. And when you should consider maybe a 2-card setup. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like as well as a comment, and also consider subscribing to the channel. I would really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching today. Have a good day. Bye.